Let's make a YouTube video. I don't know how to make a YouTube video. Hi everyone. Welcome to the first video on my YouTube channel. I am breaking into doing long form content and I'm really quite excited about it. I have wanted to do YouTube content for a very long time. I always thought that, my rehab stuff and my vet med stuff was at least a little bit interesting. And I have a little bit of a personality behind me to back me up on YouTube, so I'm excited to make content. I don't really know how to do it though, which is why I'm kind of starting with this. This is going to be kind of a loosey-goosey video. I'm just going to talk at a camera because I need to get used to just speaking as if you are right in front of me. And I think that's a really awkward thing to do at the start. So we're just going to get going with it. I have some plans to do more educational stuff in a longer format. I already do kind of 3-minute long videos on my Instagram, but sometimes there's just topics that need longer, like you need to explain them for a little bit longer. So that is what my YouTube is going to be for. I guess in this video, I just finished my second year of vet school. And anyone that is in a veterinary program going through vet school, has finished vet school, will tell you that second year is kind of the year from hell. And I just want to this is going to be like a diary entry. I just want to talk about my year, what happened in my life. Yeah, let's talk about my second year of vet school and my first year of vet school because you guys didn't know me back then. My second year of vet school, how was it? To be honest with you, kind of right off the get-go, it was a little bit crazy. So the first thing that happens in second year at our program at the Western College of Veterinary Medicine is like a big welcome week for the first years. And every first year is paired to a second year student and you act like their buddy, which is awesome. I was actually paired to a really good friend of mine. And so it was really fun. Like overall, it was really fun, but they don't tell you to start planning stuff in the summer. Like we needed time to plan this whole welcome week in the summertime and we did not get that time. And so the year kind of just started out crazy. It kind of just felt crazy. Like I did not get a second. I am also the head of the skit committee at my school. We make like silly videos for different events. And the skit kind of went off the walls and it was a lot of busy work right off the hop. And then second year vet school started. The thing about vet school, if you are someone in pre-vet trying to get into vet school, the thing about vet school, it's not that the content is difficult. And actually, I would say that the individual classes, minus CISPath, the individual classes, for the most part, the content is easier. You're covering things on a broader level, at least in first and second year, than you would be in undergrad. And that's just because a veterinarian is not expected to be a microbiologist or a virologist, or we're not expected to have expert level knowledge of all of those things. We're just expected to have a baseline understanding of a lot of things so that we can bring it together in a clinical picture. And that's how they try to train us. Second year vet school is all about how things break. First year, you learn about how things work. You do your anatomy, your physiology. Second year, you learn about how things break. And then third year, you learn about how to put them back together. And then fourth year, you do your rotations. This year, second year, the year from hell, we were in, I think, almost 10 classes per term. And a lot of those classes acted like they were the only class in existence. It's also kind of just a list memorizing year. For parasitology, you just have to learn every parasite. For bacteriology, you just have to learn every bacteria. And on and on and on. You're doing anesthesia, which is learning all of these anesthesia drugs, and pharmacology, which is just learning all of the other drugs. And overall, it's just a lot to study. You just feel like you're constantly doing flashcards. You finish one exam, you're straight on to the next. You're doing like 1 or 2 exams on average every single week. Sometimes we get a few weeks off and then you'd have like 3 back to back to back. And it was just absolutely insane. And your soul just kind of dies very early in the year. Like I was burnt out probably in October and then just had to finish the year. First year, I would say first year for me was really good, actually. First year, I kind of went through this phase of like, I'm shocked that vet school is so easy and so awesome. Look at me, la-di-da, having a grand old time in vet school. And all of my professors were amazing. My friends were doing great. Everything was so fun. And then you kind of get to second year and they give you a kick in the butt and they go, screw you. You have to do and know all of this all of the time. And it's really, it's quite disheartening. And a lot of the times we had some professors that really just did not care about our well-being at all. There were a lot of complaints from our class because of some specific professors. I don't know. This year, the fall term was definitely a little bit crazier than the spring term. Fall term for sure, I was in every memorization heavy class. Parasitology, bacteriology, anesthesia, pharmacology. Syspath started, and I need to rant about Syspath because that was crazy. I don't remember what else we were in. Virology was also a little bit crazy. That was almost an 100% final, and it was supposed to be NAVLE style, which is our licensing exam. But yeah, you're just memorizing lists and lists and lists and lists and lists of information, and you don't really touch an animal in second year. We spend a lot of time doing microscope work, like looking at parasites, looking at bacteria, looking at whatever under the microscope. We also did some cytology stuff, some ClinPath stuff. I'm very good with a microscope now. Actually, I don't know why I didn't expect vet school to be a microscope heavy program. I'm really good at them now. But yeah, you don't really get to see animals, and unless you're working at a clinic at the same time, which I did every couple Saturdays. But unless you're also working at a clinic, it is really easy to forget why you want to do it, because all you're doing is sitting in lecture. We had to sit in lecture for 7 hours, and then you'd have a break at lunch. And sometimes you're still sitting in lecture because you have to study, or you have a lunch talk. I did not really go to many lunch talks because I don't need 8 hours of lectures. You expect all of us, first of all, a lot of us are neurodivergent just because those are the people that vetmed attracts, because it's such a high adrenaline job all the time. You know, people that are like ADHD, like I am, just thrive in that kind of environment because I don't even need to take my meds because things are going on all the time. But then they take us and they put us in a lecture room for 7 hours a day. Like, you can't pay attention in every single lecture, and then all of our professors complain all the time that people aren't showing up to class, and I'm like, you record your lectures, put them online, and all the information's on your slides. In first year, you usually had afternoons, were usually labs, where you're going out, you're dealing with animals, you're actually practicing some skills, even though a lot of the time those skills were kind of useless, and the labs just turned into pet the dog lab, because there weren't enough people to teach us. Second year is just so much lecture, so much memorizing. Some of my flashcard decks, I would be memorizing 3,000 flashcards per exam, and I had to do that in 3 days. That is not sustainable. You can't keep up with that amount of work. And it's funny because, like, veterinary medicine itself, the knowledge that we have to have has expanded exponentially since we started training veterinarians, just in general, and people are more attached to their pets. They treat them like family members more so than ever before. And so we're expected to do more and more complicated things because people will pay for that these days. But they haven't extended the program. You're still just expected to learn how to be a vet in 3 years of in lecture training and 1 year of rotations, and then they say you can treat any animal you want, be kicked to the curb. I'll get into positives later. Let's start with all the negatives of vet school. I want to talk about Syspath, for sure. Syspath, basically, the point of that class is, it's a second year class at our school. Its full name is Systemic Pathology. And the point is that you do each of the body systems kind of not in order at all, actually, just randomly. Some of I was like, why did you do it in that order? That was super weird. But you do the body systems, and for each one, you learn all of these different appearances for different lesions, and then you learn all of the different diseases for all of the different animals, and all of the different, bacteria, viruses, parasites, genetic conditions, etc., 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 that will cause those things. And you have to know that for every single animal. That is the lowest grade I've ever gotten in a course. We had 2 comprehensive finals, 2 weeks apart. One of them was our lab final and one of them was our lecture final, and it's the same information. So we just had to, in the middle of our finals period where we're studying for our, I think I wrote 9 finals in the span of 3 weeks. Less than that. So in the middle of doing all of that, you need to learn all of SysPath twice for some stupid reason. It was a year-long course. It was also a year-long course. Granted, it had, I think, 2 midterms to go along with it, so it wasn't like a super heavy final. I think the lab was 15% and the lecture portion was 30%, which is low for a vet student. You know, it's enough for me to say that vet school is hard. I think everyone knows that vet school is really hard, but they don't understand how soul-crushing it is to be studying for something where you just feel set up to fail. I'm sure other programs feel like that. My boyfriend's in engineering. He's in engineering physics, and I'm sure sometimes he feels like that. But vet school especially really just feels like you are just set up in a way that you're supposed to fail. And that really gets to you after a while. It really kills your soul a little bit. And I'll tell you that the people that I know that are, like, a recent grad friend of mine, she once told me that there's a part of her that died in second year of vet school that she will never get back. And I think that's true. Like, people 50 years out of practice will tell me that they still have nightmares about second year of vet school because it's traumatic. I genuinely think that a lot of us hold trauma from this year, and I think it's on purpose. They try to, like, kill your passion and your soul a little. I'm saying words that I should not say on YouTube. Not like, I don't care. Not like this video is gonna blow up anyway. It's just me chatting. But I think that they really try to suppress your soul and your passion so that when you're out in practice, you're not fazed by those things. It's like a tough love kind of program. And it's a lot of it is like, oh, I suffered, so you have to suffer too. But, like, I don't think we have to suffer to learn how to be good veterinarians. And it's just something that we've accepted, and everyone goes through and just has to get through about it, and then they laugh about it, haha, and then they say, oh, I'm so grateful to be in vet school. And I am grateful to be in vet school, but also things need to change. And I can acknowledge both of those things at the same time because things really do need to change in veterinary medicine. How we train our vets, we should not have vets getting out into practice that already feel burnt out by veterinary medicine and then quit 2 years into practice, you know? It's not sustainable, and we already have a vet shortage, but we're training lots of new vets every year. They just don't last, and we don't give them the tools to last. It's a big issue, not to mention my clinical skills course, which is another course that I really disliked. Basically, the whole year you're doing labs. We did occasionally have a lab with animals. Most of them were models, which kind of sucked. Through most of the year, you're just learning random skills, and a lot of them are not relevant. For example, they wanted us to learn how to put a mouth gag in a cow, which is some like a piece of metal that you, like, put your hand in and you slide it in between their teeth so they can't chomp, so you can look at all their teeth. I have been told they almost never use them. But they teach us the skill and then go, well, be careful, that cow can take your arm off. Have fun. Crazy things. Like, why did I learn that skill? That was a useless skill for me. But anyway, you do all of these skills all year, and they give us, like, a checklist. These are the things you need to be able to do. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, that checklist is either not specific enough. It'd be like, in general, know about this. And you're like, well, I have to go on an internet deep dive to know about this. Know the nerve blocks. You're like, okay, what? Or they would be way too specific, and you have to be able to regurgitate them word for word on the OSCE. The OSCE is our end-of-year clinical skills examination, where you go in, you have 10 skills randomly selected that you have to be able to do one-on-one in front of someone. You have to regurgitate that entire checklist. Sometimes you don't have a checklist. Sometimes it is a 17-page document about the urinary system. And that's one skill out of, like, I don't remember how many there were. Over 50, probably. More than that. more than that. I don't remember. I've blocked it out. So you're just expected to regurgitate this entire thing of randomly selected skills, and they tell you, like, oh, well, you can kind of guess which ones are more or less important. No, you can't. People get dumb ones every single year, and then they fail the station. This year, they gave me, the one station that I failed, they gave me a really thick suture material, 2-aught PDS, for the first, I haven't used this stuff all year. They haven't given it to us. And keep in mind, when you're doing your OSCE, I'm shaking. I'm vibrating like a leaf, trying to tie my sutures, and my hands look like this, because there's someone watching you, like, inches away from your hands. You're like, please back up. And this stuff, it is so hard to tie knots with. It ties what's called a half hitch, which is just a bad knot. It doesn't tie down properly, so then it comes apart. But it does that like crazy. And yes, I should have been able to use it. I have been practicing. Thank you very much. But like, they set me up for failure because they haven't given me that stuff to practice with all year. And then I redid the station, and both times I did that station, they were giving me like new tips about how to not half hitch. And I'm like, why didn't you teach me this before? I don't know. You really just feel set up to fail with the OSCEs. That's exactly how it feels. You walk in there completely disheartened because you feel like you are not prepared in any sense of the word. And it's the same with a lot of other exams. You just feel completely underprepared. And that's a really crappy way to feel for an entire year where you're writing exams every single week. So yeah, overall, second year kind of, I'm a more apathetic person than I have ever been. And it was not a good time. Good things about second year. Good things. It was interesting. It was more interesting than first year. I would say when I was trying to enjoy the material, it was a little bit more fun to learn. Just because first year it's a lot of undergrad. You just redo your undergrad. It's a lot of anatomy, physiology. You don't learn a lot of clinically relevant things that are super related to vetmed, but you have to understand them to understand everything else. So that's why they do that. And it's probably also a little bit easier because a lot of us have already taken a lot of that information in our undergrad courses. Then you get to second year, and it is more like interesting things that are more specifically related, like parasitology. Even though it was a really hard class for exams, it was really interesting, and I enjoyed all the lectures in the labs. Same with bacteriology. Same with, I really enjoyed our clinical pathology class. That is a big highlight of second year for me, was clinical pathology. Not to be confused with systemic pathology. That was the worst class of second year. Clinical pathology is a treat because they are ahead of the game with their teaching philosophy. Every lecture, they have like a pre-lecture video that you watch, and then we go in and we do case studies, which really just solidifies it in your brain. And then after every lecture, there would be like a post-lecture quiz. So you have to look at the information again, and it would be like, you could do it up to a week afterwards. And so then that really locks it in. And I think they probably are looking at all the education studies to see what helps, because I barely had to study for the exams. I just knew the information because we could practice with the information all year. I would just review some cases and kind of practice. The exams in that class I found kind of difficult, mostly because it was a timing thing. It was case-based exams, and they were just hard. But I still did very well in the class, because even though they were hard, like, I was challenged, but it wasn't impossible. And they were also all open book and written at home, except for one lab exam. But otherwise, they were open book, which to me makes sense, because as a veterinarian, there are very few times in which I actually need to have specific information memorized. And I think overall, closed book multiple choice exams, especially for a program like veterinary medicine, is not doing anyone any favors. Like, I understand anatomy being closed book, because anytime you're in surgery, you can't look things up. So like your anatomy, your anesthesia, your surgical class, your even your pharmacology, I feel like you can make an argument for. All of that stuff, I can understand why we had to memorize that stuff. But why is parasitology closed book? Why is bacteriology closed book? It is much more relevant for it to be open book, but case-based. you can write a good open book exam that's still difficult, that you still have to study for, you still have to understand the information. But I think that's a harder exam to write than a multiple choice exam, so I understand why our professors do it. But overall, I think they should be, mostly open book. Anyway, sorry, I was talking about good things about second year. Another good thing that happened in second year is I started my Instagram account. I started making content, and that's been a really good creative outlet for me. I'm doing so much school all day, every day, that using the creative part of my brain really helped me to make it less about vetmed all the time. And I was connecting with people, and it's been a really positive experience overall. There's been some negativity, which has been awesome to navigate while I've been in vet school. But overall, I think it's been really great. I am very excited to start making YouTube content. I have some scripts coming down the pipeline. Those should all be really good. Overall, I guess this year was kind of a traumatic year for me. I genuinely think I could use the word trauma to describe this year. It was awful. I lost a lot of friends. I think part of that is due to the stress of vet school. Part of it is due to those friends were really fake people. But also, we're all stressed. It felt like everyone was fighting all the time. And it just, I don't know how I'm going to go back next year. Like, I did not care about school anymore. No part of me cared about school anymore. And that's really hard. This year, it was really hard to remember why I wanted to be a vet in the first place. And that's coming from someone that's wanted to be a vet very passionately since I was 3 years old. I know it'll get better. I have heard good things about third year. I've even heard some good things about fourth year in our program. Although a lot of the stress I hear comes from administration stuff and planning your third and fourth year. I am excited to be a veterinarian still. But second year definitely put a sour taste in my mouth. It is a level of burnout that I have never experienced before. And yeah, I lost all care that I could have had for vet school. It was not fun anymore. It was truly, I just didn't like it. And I would love to be positive and say, I'm so grateful. Vet school has good parts. There's fun parts too. But I did not like it in second year. First year, great. First year, so fun. If you're going into first year vet school, party time, it was great. Second year is a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. It's hard to be positive about something that really affected me that negatively all year. And I tried to stay positive, but I can't do that again. I'm going to print, actually. We get an email at the end of the year that basically is our confirmation that you get to move up to the next year. And by the way, you need to pass every class to move on to the next year. I think you can fail one and sit a rewrite, but you need a 60% overall average to advance overall. Individual classes are 50, but you need to pass every single one of them to move on, at least at our school. Otherwise, you're redoing the whole year. And towards the end of the year, when I was writing those 100% finals, that was kind of terrifying, to be honest with you. That includes your OSCE. If you fail, you can fail up to 2 stations on the OSCE and then go back and redo them on the rewrite day. But if you fail 3 or more, that counts as a failed class, and you have to go in August to resit the entire OSCE, basically. I was terrified. I was genuinely terrified I would fail 3 or more stations. And then I was terrified because I was also writing 100% finals. I'm like, if I mess up anything, have a bad day, have 2 bad days, and you're done. You're doing second year again. I could not have done that. I am so glad I passed second year because I don't know if I would have done it again. I would have. I love veterinary medicine. This is my calling and my passion, but I don't know if I would have done it. I would have needed a gap year probably. Anyway, this is just my little diary rant about second year. I'm going to hopefully make some long form content, but thank you for listening to my practice run. That's going to go up on my YouTube channel. Now I get to practice editing this, which I'm sure will be a blast for me. But thanks so much for watching. Expect more put together content at a later date. I don't know. I don't have an outro or an intro yet. Goodbye.